All right. Looks like we're live. Let's do this.
Hey,
GeekyKOOL presents The Professor and Ace,
hi guys!
Episode 7.
Yay! I'm so sorry. The last couple weeks I was not feeling good. So
Yeah, you had a really bad tooth infection that went up to your sinuses. So, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we'd rather you get well. So, we're
I'm
glad you're back and glad you're better.
looking this way a little bit more because this side's still a little swollen and yeah.
Okay.
Not
Well, it's a lot better than it was. I saw some of the shots otherwise, and yeah, that's bad. Don't want an infection to go up to your brain. That's bad.
no. I had it pulled out last Monday and it's still like,
Hmm.
but it's a lot better, and I can actually eat now, which is good.
Eating is very good. It's
You would
always helpful.
you would think it would help me lose weight, but I didn't lose any weight, and I'm frustrated. Like if I'm not going to eat, I might as well lose weight.
I'm with you. I would stop eating for a while if I would just automatically lose weight too, which I need to do. So that they have said that there's a Corona 15, and yeah, okay, yeah, I've been suffering from that.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's
Which is sad, but all right. So, but that's not why people tuned in. We are live here on GeekyKOOL.com over
yeah,
on YouTube and Facebook, and we're here to talk geek, and we're going to talk a little Star Wars. 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago when we were on, because
yeah.
we had 2 weeks off, we talked about Star Wars Day. We talked about Star Wars movies, and Ace is not a huge fan of Star Wars, but
The
she did
movie,
mention
I'm
she's
not a
a
fan.
yeah. Well, it's okay not to be. You can't be a fangirl of everything.
True, it's true.
So, so we will. But you did mention that you are more partial to the television side. So we wanted to cover that.
Yeah, I totally like the television side of it. I like the animation. I like the stories. I feel like they can TV doesn't rush your stories as
Right.
much. Drew and I were just talking about this yesterday, actually, about or no, this morning about on TV, especially now that you can binge watch like
Mhm.
every episode and stuff. It's like
Right.
going and watching like a 6 hour movie.
Right.
And so yeah. So that kind of makes it for me the cinematic is still there and but the stories don't have to be rushed and I don't feel like I'm missing pieces and have to be explained things later on. I don't feel like I need to do that with TV as much.
I, I'm never a big fan of having to explain it later, and
Yeah,
some of it I get, and some of it I'm okay with. And I know there was some of that. Some of it was the way the movies were done. But
yeah,
anyway, it's a movie, and you only have so much time you can use.
yeah. I mean, nobody they don't make like epic Gone with the Wind giant, the movie giant, not like giant,
Right,
but
right.
where you have an intermission anymore and stuff like that. They don't do those anymore. I kind of miss that. Like I would have loved to have been born
Hmm.
the like epic movie. But I feel like TV allows you to have that a little
Right,
bit. I
right,
also I I'm a huge anime fan
right.
and animation as well. So I know Star Wars on the TV front only has one live action that's already been released.
Right.
I have several in production and being like made and discussed and everything like that. And I know Disney Plus is going to be pushing that a lot more
Hmm.
um, to kind of expand on their Star Wars universe without having to do a blockbuster movie, which I think
Well,
is interesting.
well, now they did have one other live action
What one?
thing, and it was called the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh yeah, that's not exactly a TV.
But it was a television.
It
It
was a
happened on television, so
they
we may
had
discuss that too.
I call those micro series,
Mm,
like like you know specials and stuff like that that they did. They had several. and they've had several like cartoon ones too that are considered my. I kind of have a list of things like some of the cartoons and some of the, and of course the Mandalorian we will talk about written down and stuff. But do we have other people coming in tonight?
We have the Skallywag himself joining us. I had hoped to bring in Brian Crockett with us, but life happened, and so he won't be joining us tonight. So,
Three of us. Me and my boys.
Hello.
Look, I'm in the middle.
How we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
How you doing? Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Anyway, so we were just talking about how we're going to talk about the Star Wars television series, and had you on again. We appreciate you coming back with us this time.
Anytime.
I know we planned it for a couple weeks ago, but because we talked about Ace's illness and almost dying from stuff going to her brain, and so
I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. I had somebody who took very good care of me.
There you go.
I don't.
There you go. That's important.
So to try to fix some lighting here.
Yeah, you look very like washed out.
Wow, that almost looks evil.
Well. Oh, do we have anyone watching yet?
We don't have anybody live at the moment. Hopefully, hopefully we'll get back to that. And
well, you guys stay there. I don't know when I do this if I leave or not, but I'm gonna go hop over to Facebook and invite.
All right.
Check us out.
So before you got on, and she does go black. So before you got on, we were kind of briefly talking about the holiday special, because that was a television thing also.
Yeah.
And so there was that, and I'd almost forgot until I started thinking about it. There were other live action little episodes or things.
The Ewok movies?
The Ewok movies, exactly. I was going to say that we've got the Ewok movies. So there've been some television stuff before, but
have you seen the test footage for the show that almost was?
I don't know what was that.
There was going to be a live action show. This was about a couple of years before Disney bought out Lucasfilm. And the test footage from it, it's like 11 minutes long or something like that, just came out, got put out online maybe a month or two ago. Looks, effects-wise, looks very prequel-esque.
Right, right.
But it was just kind of test footage, so it wasn't like any actual characters or anything like that, but it was kind of like, this is what the show will feel like, sort of thing.
Right.
Kind of interesting. It was very a lot of very espionage-esque. It was somebody kind of delivering some plans that were stolen and give it over to someone, and we need a ship and all this stuff, and so it's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. I need to find that and post that out on GeekyKOOL, because that sounds like something a lot of our people would like.
I'll shoot you a link.
Bag would do that.
Well, welcome back, Ace.
Hi.
We did have a viewer for a moment, and then they were gone. I don't know. We probably scared them because you weren't here.
They saw me and was like, nope.
So we were just talking a little bit, because you and I were talking about the holiday special happened before. There were also little one-shot Ewok movies for television that were done in the 80s. And
they had the two series in the 80s. They had the droids.
Right.
Well, not the cartoons. Not the cartoons. These were live action movies that had they had Wicket and then a little girl and a boy that their family had died in a crash or something. And yeah, they were weird. Really, really weird.
They were weird. I agree.
But they helped expand the Star Wars universe into television. They were like the front runners to that.
Right.
So took off, and now we're gonna have tons of new Star Wars. Hopefully
Good
know.
Star Wars.
Well, I'm excited. I love The Mandalorian, and so I'm excited for all the live action they're talking about doing. And you know, I know they have two that they title or that they know who it's about, and then they have one that they're not. They just know it's going to be a lead that's a female.
Right.
Is that right? Like, there's one. The third one is
for
like
the series.
they have the Cassian and the Obi-Wan, and then they have one that they said they.
Yeah, there's an Obi-Wan, there's a Cassian Andor. There's another one that they just announced not too long ago, or at least one that they're thinking of doing, but I'm missing it. I can't.
Well, there was a
think
rumor about Ahsoka getting her own series, but I know she's
Yeah.
already going to be in The Mandalorian and in Obi-Wan, so I don't know.
Which
I would
Rosario Dawson, great casting, love it.
I agree.
And now they're talking getting his
Boba Fett, we got Boba Fett and or possibly Captain Rex in season 2, and we also have oh my God, I can't think of her name. From she was in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah, Kate Sackhoff is going to be Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
Bringing her over from Clone Wars. So that'd be cool.
Clone Wars and Rebels. She was in both.
Yes.
And Katie Sackhoff was the voice.
Right.
I haven't really watched a lot of the Rebels. I watched it when it what was it, like 2014 when it aired.
First started. Yeah.
I watched the first of
somewhere around
it, and then lost. I financially couldn't afford to have it anymore, and so I lost, and I just didn't catch back up. But I do watch the Clone Wars. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and it's on my TV. I don't know how that happened.
It's really weird. Like, if you were to take talk about some of the storylines that took place during Clone Wars and or Rebels, the fact that they brought time travel into Star Wars, I would think that you were insane. But I don't know, there's Dave Filoni. That man can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. It's like he takes the most bizarre, does not work in the realm of Star Wars ideas and somehow makes them work in the realm of Star Wars. It just, I don't know. That man needs to be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars.
Agreed.
Get rid of Kathleen Kennedy.
So, do you guys have a favorite? Let's talk about the animated because there's more of them to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? What's yours?
As far as a favorite, I have not watched Resistance. And I really don't know much about Resistance. But as far as Clone Wars and Rebels go, it's basically the same show, just 10, 15 years apart. So it's kind of hard to differentiate between the two, but I would probably have to say Clone Wars, and I'm basing that entirely on this last season. This last season was incredible. Absolutely perfect, most beautiful way to wrap it up.
I thought this last season was great. Rebels, I really did like. My son got me into that. We watched it late. We watched a lot of it on the Disney Plus, which it's on there now. So you can catch up with that, Ace, if you like, for free.
We're rewatching Clone Wars right now, and then we'll move on to Rebels.
There you go. The thing about Clone Wars, the first season was very kind of clunky, very much kind of focused on the battle droids and kind of some of the humor with it that you tried to see. You saw a lot of that in the prequels. But I really started getting into it with season 2, where they kind of mainstreamed a lot of the stories and really started developing the characters. especially Ahsoka and oh gosh, what was her friend's name that turned to the dark side?
Oh, oh God, Luminara? No.
No. Anyway, she also a Jedi Padawan, but
Yeah,
it,
I think it was
it
Luminara and Dooley's Padawan, but I forget what her name is.
yeah. So when you started focusing on stories of that, when you started being able to see the development of Anakin Skywalker, and you're like, this guy's a really good general, but he's not really a great Jedi as far as the whole ideals of the Jedi. And when you can really kind of start exploring that, I thought that's when Clone Wars was at its best. It did a great job of bringing in the other characters. Rebels really focused on that microcosm of those few characters on the ship, which I thought did a really good job of developing those characters.
I would like to see them in live action. I mean, we've seen the Ghost has shown up both in Rogue One and Rise of Skywalker now, so they're out there somewhere.
They definitely are. It would be really cool to bring in the Mandalorian female from Rebels.
Sabine.
Yeah, Sabine. I love Sabine. She's my favorite character, being an artist along with being a.
Did you catch that? Bo-Katan's right hand was Sabine's mom in season 7.
Yeah, I did catch that. So
I love
that was a nice way to tie that in.
So I think both of those series were really well done. First season of Rebels also kind of went a little slow. It wasn't as clunky as first season of Clone Wars, but I think it knew what it wanted to do. And once it kind of found its legs, it really kind of went some really cool places, introduced some new type of characters, and really kind of focused on what it would like to be a rogue, former Jedi Padawan which escaped and trying to learn to teach somebody and not being confident in yourself. And that was just a fascinating whole storyline there. I really, really enjoyed that. So
I love the fact that at the end of Rise of Skywalker, when you hear all the voices, that Kane was one of them.
Yeah, I agree. My son was disappointed because the boy from Rebels.
My God, I cannot think of Ezra Bridger.
He was like, well, where's Ezra's voice? Does that mean he's alive? I'm like, well, it could mean he's alive.
I mean, he and Thrawn, they disappeared. We never got to see what happened to them. Nope. So we know that they are beyond the outer rim somewhere.
And I love Thrawn. Yeah. Thrawn's a great villain. I love that they brought him in from the books that supposedly aren't canon. My biggest disappointment is we never saw Mara Jade in anything.
Oh, I know. And
I'm hoping maybe that'll correct.
At least they could have, hinted at it or something. I mean, we've got a 30-year gap in Luke Skywalker's life that we don't know anything about. He could have, he could have found a wife somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the coolest Star Wars characters ever.
Exactly. So how about you, Ace? What's your favorite? What are you liking with it?
Clone Wars. It's just I like one. I was disappointed in the movies with Anakin because I feel like you don't get to know him as Anakin, the Jedi. Clone Wars, you get to. I know it's an animated and it's not quite the same, but you know what? You get to have these backstories for him, which I found way more interesting. I think it rounded out his character way more than fast forward of the movies. And Shmoo and I were talking about this. I pointed this out before he came on. That TV series or something like that, you can pull out these little things about the characters that you can't put into a 2-hour movie. You just can't. And so I like that. I like the idea of him being a teacher, him being a mentor. You don't get to see that in the movies. He's the one learning, and they just never get to the point where he's mentoring as well. And the only relationship you get to see in the movies with him are, really Obi-Wan and Padme are like his like the only two relationships they go into depth. And Clone Wars,
and
you
Palpatine.
get to see him.
Yeah.
Good.
And like, I mean, just even, little things like, we know at the end of Revenge of the Sith where Obi-Wan, looks at Padme and he says, Anakin's the father, isn't he? But like in, watching Clone Wars, you get to find out, well, how much did he know? To learn how, he knew that there was a relationship, he knew that there was love there, but didn't think that Anakin would actually take it as far as to get married behind the Jedi's back and all that stuff. But yeah, you can dive so much deeper into who the character is and not just here's 2 hours of information, take with it what you get.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's almost sad to say that I personally feel that the guy that plays Anakin, I forget his name, Matt something, that plays Anakin in the Clone Wars, played Anakin better than Hayden Christensen did in the movies. Like, and if you've seen the guy, like, I would have loved to have seen him actually play Anakin in live action too.
Yeah.
I've never seen him, but I agree that he did a great Anakin. But part of that is that you got to tell that backstory. You actually got to develop the character. And Anakin was really kind of a flat character, just always angry and focused on this.
Very wooden, very whiny.
Yeah, very whiny or very angry, one of the two. But whiny kind of runs in the Skywalker family, so you kind of expect that.
Totally. Oh my God. Yes. It goes from Anakin to Luke to Ben Solo being
exactly. It's all cyclical.
The men in that family are
it's like poetry. They're right.
They are. The women are strong warriors. The men are putzes.
They're either whiny babies or they're schmarmy assholes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and you.
Both.
Yeah. Well, and I love Luke Skywalker. Luke's my boy. He has been since I was a little boy. I know. But Luke's my boy. But I love listening to Mark Hamill talk about stuff and just kind of throw stuff out there and say stuff. He's like, well, Luke would never do that, but this. And so I find it great. I love how he still is very happy to talk Star Wars.
He's a fan.
He is.
I love the fact that he is still as much of a fanboy about Star Wars as we are.
Yeah. Well, he said he started watching Mandalorian because the son said to do it. He really kind of fanboyed out with it. It's like, oh, this is awesome. And then, so the interview I posted a couple of days ago, they actually broke it to him that Boba Fett he's like, I thought he had died like in the Sarlacc pit. He'd been digesting for 30 years. Who knew?
Yeah,
so, I love that about him. Yeah. So anyway, but
yeah, I don't have a problem with Luke. Actually, I do, but I will let you like him because I understand that the thing is Luke was a different kind of hero back when he first came out. Because he wasn't a superhero. He's a kind of like a Spider-Man type of person.
Yeah.
He's flawed. He has weird. And he was a teenage boy who other boys could relate to. And I understand that the men in my generation love Luke Skywalker. It's okay.
I was sick when I saw him on screen.
They do this on purpose. You've got you're like Luke from Skywalker. Luke from Star Wars, who's, you can, yes, he's whiny. He's the reluctant hero would be a good way to put it.
Yes.
You got your Neo from the Matrix, who's just a total blank slate. They do that on purpose so that you, the viewer, can put yourself into their shoes. You can see yourself being Luke Skywalker. It's easy to portray, to pretend you are him because he's just like you.
Right.
And so it lets you go along the journey along with it. So yeah,
and growing up a poor farm boy, just like Luke, I really related the whole.
Yeah.
You're sitting there on and going, I want to get out of here. I don't want to be a farmer. Oh my gosh.
Like I wasn't
Well,
a farmer,
I mean,
but I grew up on Star Wars in a town of 254 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel you.
Okay, so we talked about the cartoons a little bit. If they were going to take one cartoon character and make a live action, who would it be? Or who would you want it to be?
Ahsoka, 1,000 times over. Ahsoka.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think
I would venture as far as to say movies, TV shows, games, you name it, outside of maybe Revan, she is the one character that has like the most story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the most heart. She's got just every she is the perfect package. And it's sad that like the arguably the best Star Wars character is just from a little TV show that only about half the fans have seen.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I feel like the stories that that people could relate to with her, and the conflict that she has within herself, and the conflict she has with everyone else, no matter what it is, she can bounce off of anyone. I would love to see that. Like that's the one I'm hoping they make.
I feel like they will. I mean, she's a popular enough character, and especially now that they're bringing her into live action, which I cannot wait for. But I feel like if Rosario Dawson does even half the job that playing Ahsoka as they portrayed her in the cartoons, then there's no way that they won't make an Ahsoka show. I mean, I'll be surprised if it's not already in the works behind the scenes.
They do have that third one that just says strong female lead.
Right. Well, and that could be it. We do have a comment from our viewers. William here has a comment about Mark Hamill, and I agree with you, William.
CJ.
So, but
I agree. I like Mark Hamill.
So if you're saying Ahsoka, which you both did, and I agree with Ahsoka. Ahsoka's an awesome character. The next character I would go with would be Sabine. I just think her character has enough. Yeah, from Rebels. Sabine from Rebels, I think, would make a really interesting story, especially with her. And if you tell the story of Mandalore, and use her as an essential piece in that of what happens, between, where she leaves the rebels and all that stuff to where she's trying to help get them back and what actually happens, because it's hinted at that the Empire went ahead and pretty much destroyed all of Mandalore or devastated it enough. And tell that story with that character and her heart and being an artist.
But we have yet to see the Night of 1,000 Tears.
Right.
That what's his face talked about.
So you could do that in a really interesting story. I would definitely watch that. That would be 100% in.
I love that. Like we all picked girls, not for the reason, but because I feel like that might get them made faster. Like just because it's strong female lead, I know we've had discussions like this, Spoo and I have, about about how they turn all these characters into girls, or they make them girls in movies that don't need to be. And why not take characters that are already female and just make the movies or the TV shows with them?
Agreed.
You already you already own the rights to them. They have a storyline. They have a history that's already been out there. I just don't think you need to turn into a girl. You just use one that you already have.
Agreed.
Sorry.
or create a new one. You don't need to change a male figure into create a brand new character and put them in there. Make them heck, freaking make Mara Jade a character. Come on. I mean, she is. She would be freaking amazing.
You know, it's like the one piece of Legends that they've vaguely held on to were like the Zahn novels.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you want a little, kind of pick little pieces out of it to keep and throw away, then she was from the Zahn novels, right?
She was. Yep.
Okay. I had a moment where I was like, wait a minute.
Oh,
but no, I mean, you got Thrawn. Bring in Mara. She was an awesome character. Even if you scratch the whole she and Luke were, a thing. Even if she's just her own character, maybe she's one of the Inquisitors or something. I mean, other Force users that start off evil and she can become good and all that good stuff.
Well, and pretty much that's what she was, is the hand of the Emperor. So I don't know. I think you could do that really easily, and you could put her in cartoons, you could put her in live action. It doesn't really matter, but you need to use this character. And the Zahn novels really got me addicted to Star Wars books in the 90s.
Yeah.
The Zahn, I would read.
They were the only ones I really liked at all.
There were some other ones I liked, but those were the best ones. That trilogy, the original trilogy, was just super amazing. I don't know why they didn't make those into movies right away. As soon as they saw the popularity, they should have grabbed the cast and made them into movies. But
I mean, even going as far back. Well, I mean, even Lucas said that he wasn't even back in the day that he wasn't all that big on a lot of the books, but that he really did love the Zahn novels.
Yeah.
And even the Star Wars special editions, when those first came out, like as they're pulling into Mos Eisley, you can see the Outrider flying off.
Mm-hmm.
That's Rendar's ship, the Outrider. You can see it taking off right as they pull in. And there's another time that it shows up. I think it's in the sequels, but I can't remember which one. It may have been like one of the ones that was there at the battle at the end of Rise of Skywalker, but it's shown up twice in the 9 movies that I know of. There may even be more. But so yeah. I mean, he was a rip-off of Han Solo, but okay, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong at all with that.
There's not. So the Mandalorian, we talked about the cartoons. We talked about what characters we'd like to see. So I guess we could talk about Mandalorian. I mean, if we must, I love it.
If we have to. I want to go back to talking about the holiday special.
We will do that. We will do that.
I got excited when you told me that was part of it.
Hold on, I will just wait in the middle.
But go ahead with Mandalorian. We'll do that first.
Talking about the Star Wars holiday special. Oh God.
The Mandalorian, though, I think is Disney. I liked that they took a character that wasn't a character you've seen anywhere else, but you know about him a little bit because you know about his race or and everything. And they slowed it down to tell his story, and they're not forcing anything else in to it other than his story at the first season. I like that.
The best thing that I think about that show was most people, as soon as they announced we're doing a show called The Mandalorian, everybody automatically assumed it's Boba.
Right.
And then the show comes out and he's got, nobody knows his name. He's this mysterious guy. What? It's Boba. And then all of a sudden it's like it's Din Djarin. It's not Boba. But here's Boba. So they did it perfectly. They drag you along and feed you just a little bit. They tell you, oh, it's not Boba Fett, it's not Boba Fett. And we're all like, sure, it's not. But no, they weren't lying. But they did it perfectly.
It's such a great. That's why I like TV for Star Wars, because you can go so in depth, and it's so great because I feel like if they continue on this trend, and Disney knows when they have a cash cow, like it's Disney,
right?
That's the argument I have used as to why Boba Fett would eventually return. There's no way he's
Oh, yeah.
dead. He's too big of a cash cow.
He was the #1 character that was not exploited to the 100% that they could exploit him to, because they kill him off in the movie before they could do that.
And this
so
would be
this
where
was a
you
way
would
for them
insert
to
the
do
clip
that,
of Boba Fett and Darth Vader breakdancing at Disney World. Makes me want to growl every time.
Well, you know, Boba Fett actually came from the holiday special.
Yes, he did.
I love that you brought that up.
Which fun fact there? The fun fact. So Boba Fett shows up in the holiday special. He's like, he's got the rifle. He's riding the dinosaur-looking thing. That image of him on that dinosaur is actually one of Ralph McQuarrie's really early pieces of artwork. He was just some guy. He wasn't Boba Fett at the time.
Right.
Made before the very first Star Wars even came out. When George went to him to okay, Ralph McQuarrie is the guy that did all the artwork for Star Wars, if you don't know. Yeah. George Lucas then took that artwork to the studios because none of the studios wanted to buy Star Wars. He was then like, look at all these beautiful scenes that we could have in the movie. And that's how 20th Century Fox was like, okay, we'll give you a shot. Well, one of those was this guy with a helmet and a rifle and a backpack with a missile on it and stuff sitting on a dinosaur that looked very similar to, it was like a cross between what he was writing in the holiday special and what Obi-Wan wrote in Revenge of the Sith. It was like, take those two things, smash them together, you have the Ralph McQuarrie Boba Fett painting. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact. I did not know that. I did know the toy came out before anybody knew who it was. So the Boba Fett toy did show up before the holiday special. And it had the missile that would launch. Yeah, it got pulled. So if you have one of the original Boba Fett's, you had to send in like 20 proofs of purchase or something crazy for.
That is a common misconception. The only ones that actually do exist were prototypes. There were about 13 or so prototypes that were actually made. They never actually manufactured the figure. No one ever actually got theirs in the mail. So anyone that says that they did is lying. But yeah, there are about 13 of them in existence in the world, and they go for about, last I heard, I think the one was selling for like $130,000 or something like that. Yeah.
I'll pick up 2.
Yeah. Christmas is coming up.
I just, a little something extra. It's all right.
Yeah, stocking stuffer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think with the Mandalorian, they could have done a Boba Fett. They could have.
Right.
But I like that. And also, I think Disney Plus needed something to launch Disney Plus big time.
They did.
And so you take it, you tease that it might be Boba Fett. So all the Star Wars fans are going to watch it. And then you show this cute little baby Yoda, like the child.
The fact that they managed to keep that a secret is amazing.
Yeah, I know. And so then people were like, "Oh my gosh, he's so cute." And so then you get like all the people who might not be Star Wars fans but like cute things.
Right.
Girls.
Right.
Let's just face it. Yeah. Not that all girls are not Star Wars fans, but I'm just saying.
For the memes.
Yeah, you get that. And you can now see that Disney, like they're so smart over there. By the way, I'm going to write an article about what I think Disney should do next, and I think it's going to be a brilliant idea. And if they do it, I'm going to get
a fun idea. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
But
check it out on GeekyKOOL.com. Up in the corner, GeekyKOOL, cool with a K.
Right.
Check it out. That's right there. Right there. There it is. So, yeah.
Straight up.
So that was a good place to promote it. So.
But,
yeah.
So with the Mandalorian and now that they've pretty much let us know that was Boba Fett, the sounds of the spurs and everything.
Yeah. That was in 5.
What?
The end of the little stinger at the end of episode 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys think like we're gonna see way more like TV shows, or do you think they're gonna like try to do a movie with Boba Fett or
They tried that,
something?
and I think that for the most part, this is AJ and I had this conversation this morning about just Star Wars in general, and kind of prepping for tonight. I personally feel that with the movies and the shows and the comics and the toys and the et cetera, Star Wars has basically gotten too big to contain itself any longer. That's why the TV shows, that's why they work, because they're smaller, they're more contained, and you can spend your time telling a story instead of here's 2 hours to try to squeeze everything in we can. So unless we know that there's at least one more movie happening, because it was recently announced that Taika Waititi is going to be directing a Star Wars film, and I am super excited about that. But unless they do one of two things: one, they tell some story about some side character that we've never heard of, that is in a totally other side of the galaxy from anything we've ever seen. You never see a lightsaber, nothing of the Force, no Jedi, no Sith, no nothing, no Empire, no First Order, unless it is a totally original, brand new story. Or we go back and we tell some stories from the old Republic days. Unless you do either of those two things, it will not work, because Star Wars is too big, and unless it is one of those two things that have not, and the only reason that those two things work is because they have yet to be really deeply tapped into. Old Republic, you got a bunch of games and comics and stuff like that. And I was super excited when they started talking about an Old Republic trilogy. I was like, yes, please, dear God, give me a Revan movie. But even if it's not Revan, just back in the days when the Jedi were new, there were tons of Sith, whatever. But it's a whole, that now you've got a familiar world and yet a whole new one at the same time.
Right, because we were talking about all the movies are within 4 generations. So it's about like
roughly 60 to 65 years.
Right.
So under 100 years, within a century.
Yeah.
All the movies that we've had so far are within 1 century. How long? Of like the history of that and stuff. Like you could go and tell who was the first Jedi. You could go, like you could go back to all kinds of things and stuff, or you can go forward so far.
Yeah.
I think.
What would future Star Wars look like? Now, there's a fun concept.
If they do a movie, I do agree. Like they're going to have to break away from this storyline and completely do something else, but within
something completely original. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're planning on with any future movies. In fact, I mean, they've said that the Skywalker 3 trilogies, which Lucas talked about at one point and then backed off from, but that's pretty much all wrapped up. So the whole idea of Darth Vader, of the Skywalker legacy, we've done that. We've explored that. We realize it's very cyclical. Everything that happened has happened before. It's going to happen again. That's like pretty much exactly. But you can explore so much because there's so many worlds and so much information out there. The Old Republic's a great way to go. Talking about these other worlds. That's what made The Mandalorian great, was you were exploring worlds that we really didn't know anything about. And a lot of it really had that kind of Western feel, or the Seven Samurai feel to it, which worked perfectly for something like that.
And all we knew about the Mandalorian was from Boba Fett and from Jango Fett, and we just knew that there was this race of hunters basically that dressed in cool armor and had cool weapons, and that was pretty much all we really knew about them.
Well,
And
you hit the cartoons.
yeah, so it's like, so you're in the Star Wars universe, so it's a familiar world, so you don't have to explain, well, this is what this thing is, and this is what this thing does, and this is how that works. You just you already know about ships, you already know about blasters, you already know about certain planets and certain races and whatever, so you don't have to explain all that crap. So it's all familiar, but it's a totally original story, unless you count the Darksaber in the very last shot of the entire season. No lightsabers, no Jedi, no Force, no nothing showing up at any point. So it falls under that category. It's a contained story that's completely original, and that's why it works so well.
I mean, the only Force person, the child, like, he's a Yoda, the species of Yoda. He's not, he's that.
And he can't even talk, so we don't get to hear all this mumbo jumbo crap about the Force.
Right. That's the thing. I already know the movies.
Larry, I'm sorry, Larry. I totally just realized that your shirt is at, and that is amazing. Where did you get that?
I bought it on Shirt Woot probably 10 years ago.
That is the greatest thing ever.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of my at shirt. Yeah,
I just noticed that. That is awesome.
So, but I think what we're going to have is both, and I think Disney's going to take an approach, because I think they wanted to do another trilogy to tie things into the other one. I think that ended up with mixed results. I like them. I didn't think they were perfect by any means, but I enjoyed them for what they were for. But I think the whole idea that you can take and explore other areas, they tried to do that with Solo, and even though it's a familiar character, they were trying to tell it in a different way, and it fell flat. But I don't think it was the movie's fault. I really think it was the fans were tired of feeling like everything was being pushed on them.
I blame Solo on three things. One, it came out too quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We were getting Star Wars every December, and then all of a sudden we got one in December, and then Solo came out in May.
Right.
So 5 months apart. So oversaturation. Two, you bring in two guys to write and direct your movie that are known for thinking outside of the box, but that scared Disney. So when the movie is like, what was it, 80% done, I think, they decided, no, you're doing too many original things with this. Let's bring in Ron Howard to reshoot 70% of the movie. And that's two. And three was just, let's see how many Easter eggs and how much fan service we can cram into this thing instead of trying to tell a coherent story.
Well, and I think that becomes the problem with the fan service. I don't mind some fan service. In fact, I look for it. I enjoy it. But when you're doing too much and you start avoiding some of the plot. Now, I still thought the movie was a fun heist movie. I thought it was a fun way to take Star Wars.
It's one of those things. It's kind of like what I say about pretty much all the sequels. It's a really fun movie until you start thinking about it.
Right.
If you can just shut your brain off and just watch, it's great. Which, to be fair, I mean, we picked these movies apart, but when those first three movies came out, we were kids.
Right.
And if you really go back and watch them now, but actually nitpick them and think about them the same way that you think about the other six movies, they're just as bad, if not at sometimes worse.
Yep.
The only difference was they didn't have as many Easter eggs in them because that wasn't as big of a thing back then. Unless you count trying to find the shoe and the potato in the asteroid field and stuff like that, which those are there.
Oh my goodness! Oh, you crack me up. He knows all these Easter eggs, and if he doesn't know them, we will be watching a movie, and he's on his phone, and I'm like, "Are you watching the movie? I've got to see if that was an Easter egg."
I love Easter eggs. I love Easter eggs. I'll go anytime, whenever I'm like, if I'm watching a movie that I've never looked up before, I will go on to IMDb and like look through the trivia section just to learn little fun things about the movie. But I mean, I could do a whole month of episodes about just Easter eggs in general. But yeah.
Well, to quote the Animaniacs, hunting for Easter eggs on Easter morning, good idea. Hunting for Easter eggs on Christmas morning, bad idea. Especially since they were real eggs back then. Anyway, we kind of teased the holiday special a little bit. Have you ever seen the holiday special, Ace?
Like, I think I was forced to watch it as a child. I don't even know when it came out. I just remember watching something, but I had an older brother. You guys,
1978.
So.
November 1978.
Yeah,
so Star Wars had been out for a year, and Lucas tried to. He got kind of. I think he got kind of shanghaied into this whole idea that you wanted to do what was very typical of the 70s and have this kind of.
He had
holiday
very, very little to do with it.
Right.
Like his name is like nowhere in the credits other than like based off characters created by.
Right.
But yeah. Oh God. Oh.
It's a train wreck. It really is a train wreck. I watch it every year.
You hear about how epically bad it is, and yeah, it is horrendously bad. But more than anything, it's boring.
It is boring.
So incredibly boring.
So you don't get excited by watching Grandpa.
Watching Grandpa watching porn? No, I don't. Here's a tip. Here's a tip. If you want to watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, I believe it's on YouTube. The entire thing. No, not just the movie, but watch the Riff Tracks version.
Oh yeah.
At least it's funny. But I'm pretty sure the entire Riff Tracks version of the holiday special, it was at one point on YouTube. Watch that. That way you can see how bad it is while at least hearing some entertaining things throughout. Because, oh, dear God. First of all, your main storyline is 3 Wookiees in a house talking to each other for 2 hours, no subtitles. So they're just having conversations, and we're just like, I don't know. Then Art Carney shows up. I mean, it's
right.
So bad. It's like the best parts of it is the deleted scenes from A New Hope with Vader in them. I mean, it's so bad. And I don't know, but I think this was like right after Mark Hamill's accident, car accident. We got the scars on his face. So like he has this weird swoopy hairdo going on, and he looks like a drag queen. So much makeup going on. And then, oh God, Harrison Ford, you can actually see the moment that he stopped caring about acting. Carrie Fisher is coked out of her mind. And then she sings at the end. It's weird.
Oh, I love when she sings too. That's just great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and B. Arthur singing as the
Honestly, that whole song about like closing up for the night at the Mos Eisley Cantina is the best part of the whole thing.
Except for the Boba Fett. The Boba Fett cartoon. Right in the middle of everything. 20, like you get 10 minutes of this animated cartoon, you're like, where did this come from? But like this is the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, and the animation in that, like Han Solo's face is like this. Yeah. He looks like Alec Baldwin in Beetlejuice when he stretches the. Yeah, it's freaky. It's freaky.
It's very late 70s and oh gosh, what am I thinking?
It's the animation from the Droids cartoon is what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking more of oh. Anyway, I'll think of it later. I'm sure it'll come to me in the middle of the night. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's unique, but at least the story's fun.
345.
So we've got
guys.
that.
You guys crack me up. I know you guys
So did you see? You've seen the Ewoks one? Have you seen the Ewoks?
Many years ago.
The Ewok show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which?
Yes.
Many years ago. I would love to find and rewatch those now.
When I remember, because it came out, Ewoks came out, what was it, 85 to 87, right?
Yeah.
I think 80.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But I was a little girl, and Ewoks are cute little teddy bears.
Right.
Like, Ewoks are cute. You know, they're cute.
Right.
It's cute. So
except for when they're sticking a spear at you.
Ewoks are terrifying. Although I wish I could travel to the alternate universe where they actually did end up being Wookiees and we got to see stormtroopers getting ripped apart. That, like the original script had, that would have. I want to live in that universe.
That would have been fun. I agree. But at least in Return of the Jedi, we did.
I liked.
You like what?
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 You cut out there. What?
Oh, I said I like droids too. I liked some of my favorite characters are the droids. So I always like the droids. Shmoo and I were talking about R2-D2 the other day, and I would, that whole question that people came up with, and Mark Hamill said people have asked him, if R2-D2 knew all this, why didn't he just tell Luke? And Shmoo was like, well, he didn't know, like, Leia is not, like, I was like, he could have told her Leia was his sister. And he's like, well, I don't know if he knew. And so we went back and we watched just the end of things. And, because R2-D2 was there when the twins were born. And
my thing with that was,
didn't get his mind.
Yeah, it's like R2 didn't get his mind wiped, but he didn't belong to, he didn't belong to Bail Organa. He belonged to Captain Antilles, which was just the guy that captained the ship that Bail Organa owned. So it's like, yes, he would have been around Leia quite a bit, but how much information he was privy to during that 17, 18 years, we don't know. So it's like, he might have known, he might not have. I think he knew and Obi-Wan just told him to keep his mouth shut.
That's very possible.
My head, and
yes, he was
because I was a little. Yeah, I always thought in my head that Obi-Wan went to watch Luke, kind of like watch over Luke, and he sent R2-D2 in my head to watch over Leia. Like this was when I was watching. He is sent there to kind of just not kind of be a babysitter, but not a babysitter. Like. He's a historian, and Shmoo and I talked about this, is R2-D2 knows everything. He's been there for every important part of this story. And so he's the historian, he's the watcher. From like Marvel, he's the watcher. He's recording all this stuff. And I always thought when I was a little kid that R2-D2 was hers, not like her droid, but like he belonged with her. Like I always just felt that. And so we had that discussion and we went back and watched, because he's there when she's born, he's there when she's dead, like Danny said. And I would love to see an animated series again. I know they did the droids back in the 80s, but I would love to see an animated series about just like the droids again. I think if they could redo it,
you could do a lot with them.
You could.
I mean, yeah, because essentially, even though the droids are your main characters, they're kind of the side characters to everything that's happening around them.
Right.
So you could have it be, instead of having like a villain of the week type episodic thing, you could have every episode is vastly different and they're just caught in the middle of some thing happening. So yeah, that actually would be kind of cool.
That would be
I would
awesome.
love to see, because I just think that if you look at R2D2 as the Watcher in the series, the Skywalker saga, if you look at him as a Watcher from like Marvel Comics and stuff like that, you know, like he watches and he records. What is he recording now? Like after Rey, and like where does he go after this? And
Yeah.
I just think that I would love to see that. I would
The
love to
sequel
see it
kind of forgot that he existed.
Yeah, I would
That
love to
made
see it
me.
as an animation. Both the kids.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I was just saying that made me so mad. Was like, if you ever listen to George Lucas talk, he would say that, like, if you watch the original trilogy, you say, oh, it's a story about Luke Skywalker. If you watch 1 through 6, you'd say, oh, it's a story about Anakin Skywalker. But if you watched 1 through 9, then you would see that it's the story of R2D2. Lucas always said that this was R2D2's story. And the fact that 7, 8, and 9 was kind of like, no, but we've got this cute version of R2, and he's like a little ball, and he rolls around and stuff. So we're going to have him out there with C-3PO, and R2D2 spends half the movie with a sheet over him. That made me so mad. Like, the only thing, I think the only time that R2 ever actually, like, left the base camp was when she went to go see Luke, and the only reason he came then was because he had a map. And so he could show Luke the recording of Leia.
He knew where to go.
Yeah. Other than that, he had nothing to do with the whole trilogy.
Everything.
Yeah, I always suspected C-3PO would be at the end of 9 telling this grand story and saying, I'm not much of a storyteller, and then wrapping up the story with him and standing next to R2. That's always kind of how I envisioned it. But yeah. Yes. All right, guys. Anything else we need to talk about with you?
I would like to see that.
I got a great way to wrap it up.
All right.
If nobody else does.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
I forget where this story came from, but have you ever heard the story of the end of Star Wars? Have either of you ever heard it?
I don't think so.
No. I forget where this came from, but it's been around for many, many, many years. But basically, I'll give the short version of it. But like, how does the Star Wars, how does it end? And basically, it's like years after the Empire, years after the First Order, years after the last Sith that we've ever seen, you know, has gone and died and, you know, faded away with time. New generations of Jedis, they come, they flourish, they, you know, move across the galaxy, teaching the ways of the Force. And the guy that kind of was the new Yoda, essentially, that he one day he realized, okay, well, pretty much the whole galaxy now that, you know, they're doing well, and it's time to move on to find other galaxies and other, you know, maybe even other universes. So he gets in his starship that's specially created for like long distance flight, and he just starts flying. And he flies and he flies and he flies for what seems like an eternity. And I mean, he's in this ship basically for years and years and years. And when he's an old man and he's long hair and he's gray beard and everything, and he finds this little planet that's inhabited by people, and he comes down and he lands, and here's these new people. This first time he's come across new people in years and years and years, and of course they know nothing of the ways of the Force. So he begins to teach them the ways of the Force. And after many years, you know, there's enough of them that have kind of started to thrive that they're starting to teach their Padawans and their Padawans. And, you know, the Force is growing once again. And he's lying on his deathbed. And his oldest and favorite student comes up to him and says, Master, you've taught us many things throughout your time here, but you've never told us your story. Where do you come from? And he says, you're right. It's been a long time since that I've been here, and I haven't really told you much about myself. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, ...
There you go.
And then the camera pans out, and you see that it's Earth.
It's Earth. Yeah.
And that was the end of Star Wars.
At least it didn't have them on Earth with,
Oh.
you know.
No, it did. That was the thing. Was like as the camera pans away when he says that, you would like eventually see that it is Earth.
Ah.
And then they nailed him to a cross.
And they nailed him to a cross. Well, I just realized, AJ, you're wearing a Padawan braid on the side.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose.
That's awesome. I love that.
Nobody noticed it until like now.
Until now. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying any
I did my
attention
victory
there.
roll, but then
I love it.
That's
Yeah.
I just
Now I really want a
do that, you
T-shirt with
guys.
Jesus as a Jedi on. Jesus was a Jedi.
No,
You gotta be
In the
careful.
beginning, God created
No,
heavens
thank
and
you
the
both
Force.
thank you both for talking to. Oh my
So is
God.
that it? We're done now?
Oh.
Well, we have to
God.
actually talk about our other fellow bloggers out there, our local ones. So
Our little network of friends, nerdy people, and geeks that we love. So we're going to start off with the Nerd Informants. If you guys don't know them, it's Tim and Josh. They're here in Branson. They're on YouTube and Facebook, and they're amazing. They do a lot of movie reviews when there are actual movies being released, which should be this summer sometime. And they do all kinds of things. I know they're doing some gaming things and stuff like that. But go check them out. And then we have the Skallywag. You see him, he's with us today.
he is
Not
with
always
us, and we're glad to have him with us.
Skallywag. I know. Skallywag Productions, and that is over on YouTube and Facebook. He also has Instagram, which he does a collectible of the day. You see all the things behind him. He does the toys. What is this? What are you doing?
I don't know. I'm just watching myself and
I thought maybe he was singing "Yo Ho Ho" and a bottle of rum.
The ship's rocking. I can't help it.
So go check out the Skallywag and give him a like on Facebook, and also go and subscribe to him on YouTube. He's going to have new content coming up soon. He's working on
a big project, so
all
it's
the
been
time.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, got like notes and notes and notes of stuff, so you can go over there and see that. And then we have our friends Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield. They're on YouTube and Facebook as well, and they're not quite as PG as we are, but they are funny. And if you want to see some really cool interviews and stuff like that, and hear some really cool stories, and you don't mind like a little bit more cursing and inappropriateness, go check them out. But they're amazing and they're fun and they know everyone. So you never know who they're going to have on their show. And then you go and check us out. Don't forget to go like us on Facebook at GeekyKOOL.com on Facebook, and then also go check us out on our website. We have a bunch of contributors. We have writers who specialize in stuff. We do videos and all kinds of stuff. What do you say at the end of your videos, Shpoo, about GeekyKOOL?
About GeekyKOOL?
When you talk, yeah.
Hop on while you're out there on the internet. Hop over to www.GeekyKOOL.com. It's your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
That is what he says.
There you go.
Hey, just a shout out to Gary, because it's Gary's birthday over at Pop Culture Minefield. So happy birthday, Gary.
Happy birthday to you.
I'll let him know we give him a shout out.
Favorite song?
No, yes. I hate the Happy Birthday song. It's the worst song ever made. The song itself is fine, and I don't mind singing the Happy Birthday song, but I will not sing it with a group of people because I call it the saddest song in existence because it's never sang on key, and that makes me sad.
Well, if you're asking me to sing anything with a group or even by myself, it's never on key. So I think the key is just to have people that can sing it, and not demand everybody sing it that can't sing like me.
Right? Yeah, sure.
It would just be the Skallywag singing because I sing a half beat off. It's a thing.
It is the weirdest thing ever.
Like, I mean, I'm either half beat behind or half beat ahead, but it's consistent throughout the whole song.
There you go.
You know, there's that. Consistency. It's my thing. But guys, thank you for joining us. And if you have any comments or something, we'll read them, even if you're like posting them after we've like gone off this. And be sure to go and check our website out and our articles and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've got some new stuff coming up this week. Have a wonderful. We will be back next week with another one, and I don't know what we'll talk about yet, but we'll figure that out and let you guys know.
Yep, and hopefully, I'm hoping to have my stuff back up and running this coming Monday too. So
that would be awesome.
Yeah. Come see me.
All right, stay geeky.
That's his goal.
Bye.
Bye, guys.